Hey everybody, Joy here. This video is part 2 of a 2-part video showing you how I do my pattern adjustments for my fitting issues, how I cut it out, and how I sew it together. So this is part 2 and how I sew the whole thing together. Okay, so let's get started with part 2 right here. This is not my usual sewing space, you realize, so everything's not where it belongs yet. But since my other room is 82 degrees, I'm going to have to sew it here for right now, alright? So I hope you can see me and I can explain it as I go. So, the very first thing we did was go press the interfacing on the back of the two facings. Now these facings will be sewn together and the edges will be serged, but I don't serge my edges of my facings until after they're sewn into the blouse. Why? Because sometimes I want to serge off a 1/2 inch. Sometimes I just want to serge the very edge. Sometimes I want to serge off a whole inch. And so I just wait until I get them in and then see how I want to handle them after I get them sewn in. So we're just going to put those over here where my serger should be, but it isn't. Another reason I'm not serging right now. Okay, so we're going to find the front. The first thing you do is you put in all the internal darts. There could be waist darts, but there aren't. There could be waist darts in the back too, but there aren't. There's only 2 bust darts because you have 2 busts. So we're going to find our bust darts, which we marked in red. We're going to pin them together. Pin them together as best we can. So I start at the point. I point the point and I stick a pin in the point. And I stick it in about a halfway down. Then I look on the back to see if it hit the red line on the back. So it's in the red line on the front, it's in the red line on the back. Then I come over here to the point on the other side and I line up the 2 slits. Then I start pinning it. I smooth it out so it's nice and flat. You don't want any bumps or rumples or ripples. And so I'll pin through the side I can see, then I'll turn over to the side I can't see. And my pin went exactly directly through that red line. So I'm going to put a few more pins because fabric likes to move. When you aren't holding it, it likes to move. So that one isn't exactly lined up. I'm going to keep doing it until it does. Take a little bite again. Take a little bite, not a giant bite. Then it can't move around. There you go. There's the back. There's the front. I'm going to sew it from the wide part. And I'm going to sew, pull out the pins as I go and keep on sewing right off the point. I'm just going to keep on going. I'm not going to back stitch. I'm just going to keep on going. And I'm going to stitch with my regular stitch. And I'm going to start right down there at the wide part. Now, I know Peggy Sagers, and I don't know if I've ever heard of anybody else that does it like she does it. She starts from the point. She seems to think people can't drive straight down to the point. I just think that's crazy. I don't think she's crazy. But I think that you ought to be able to follow a line. My goodness, nobody could sew a 5/8 inch seam if you can't follow a line, right? So, follow the red line. Line up your little guide. You have a guide. You got a dash. It's a guide. Take out the pins as you go. And if you're sewing straight down that red line, you can't go anywhere but straight to the point. It's impossible. Now, about 1 inch from the point, I'm going to turn my stitches down from 2.5. 2.5 is standard general. I'm going to turn it down to 2. And then I'm going to keep on going right off the point. Keep on going. Lift the needle, back up, and tie this in. Back there. I'm just going to bring this string around that I just made. I just sewed this long string. And then I'm going to tack it into that dart and I'm going to cut it off. Huh? See? Here's the string. Here's the string. I can stick my finger in it. I'm hoping when I edit this it looks like you can see it real good. And then I just sewed it in a couple stitches. I didn't back stitch. I just sewed 1-2 stitches and cut. So it can't unravel no matter what you do. All right? Don't be in a hurry. Don't be in a hurry when you sew. If you don't have time to sit down and do this, like right now, you know, if the house was on fire and I needed to get out of here, I wouldn't just suddenly sew this very fast. I would just get up and leave. Well, let's say it was time to fix dinner or give the kids a bath or whatever. Put it down. Just put it down. It's so much easier to come back later and start clean than to come back later and try to fix a screw up that you made because you tried to hurry. See, I'm smoothing it out again because it was a little bit rumpled. And that's not lining up. That other one was perfect, but this one I'm having to fiddle with a little bit. But that's good. You become a real good fiddler when you sew. Perfect. Can you hear the lawnmowers? Don't you know every time I make a video for you guys, they come and mow my lawn? You know that. Happens every Tuesday. Every Tuesday. Maybe I should quit making videos on Tuesday. And I'm upstairs. What does that say about the insulation in our house? I know we have it because we built it. It's insulated like crazy. Even our garage is insulated. Okay, who cares about that? Nobody. All right. Start from the wide end. Put it back up on 2.5. Wouldn't be the end of the world if you didn't, but if you had to rip that out, whoo, howdy, that would be the end of the world. So you don't want to rip out 2.0 or less seam allowance. And here we come, 1 inch away from the point. And put it back down to 2 or less. And pull. Keep on sewing. There we go, off the end, back up, lift it up. Now you know me, I don't have to lift back here because I have a Bernina and I can lift it with my knee. So I just lift it with my knee, back up, put a few stitches in the side, cut it, and there we are with my little string, and I'm sewn down there to the point. Perfect. So now, my 2 darts are in, my 2 bust darts are in. I'm going to go back in the 82-degree room and press these bust darts, and then I'll be back. Bust darts are pressed down. They're pressed to the downs, to the hem, because that's the way they were put in. When I folded them and I cut that side seam, in order for that to go the way it's supposed to go, see, if I folded them that way, if I folded them up, they would stick way out on the side, see? So you press them down and they line up with the side seam perfect. You don't see me reading the directions because I don't need them. But if you were reading them, it wouldn't tell you to sew those bust darts in because yours isn't going to have bust darts if you didn't do an FBA. So now I'm going to line up the shoulders. There's the front with the darts. There's the back with no darts. Right sides together. Here's shoulder 1, here's shoulder 2. Now, what's the deal with my shoulders, do y'all remember? My right shoulder's a 1/2 inch lower than my left shoulder. So I either have to raise the left or lower the right. I always lower the right. So I'm going to show you how I do that. Now this is a dolman sleeve. Is that right? Dolman sleeve. There's dolman and raglan. I always get them mixed up. This is a dolman sleeve. You got to have a ruler. You have to know how far you are from your center front to the tip of your shoulder. I know I'm 15 inches. Half of 15 inches is 7.5. So I'm going to measure. I'm going to slap my ruler down, and I'm going to measure over on this shoulder from center front to 7.5. And that is very, very close to the neck. 7.5 is right here. So this much of the shoulder is what I need to reduce. But since this is a dolman sleeve, I am going to extend it a little past. So what I'm going to do is with this red Frixion marker, so sorry about the lawnmower, I can't even believe it. Alright, so there's the 5/8 inch line. I know that out here at 7.5 I need to have 1/2 inch less. Since I'm sewing 2 pieces together, I'll use a 1/4 inch because a 1/4 inch times 2 is a 1/2 inch, right? So I'm going to lower this a 1/4 inch out here at 7 1/2. A 1/4 inch. I'll show this to you up close in the camera. So I'm going to take it from there over to the neck up to 5/8 inch at the neck. Then I'm going to taper it back in gradually, gradually, gradually. Gradually. You can't just stop there. So I'll show you. Hopefully it shows up in the camera. You can see where I started, and then I just went a little bit that way and over here to 5/8 inch at the neck. Because I'm the same at the neck, it's out here where I'm different. Just because the sewing machine company puts you at 2 1/2 as the standard stitch doesn't mean you have to keep it there. So you can sew at a 3, and a 3 is so much easier to rip out, and it sews much faster. So that's what I usually sew at, is a 3.0, but not in a bust dart, because you want a bust dart to be tight. Okay, so now I have sewn that with that 1/4 inch dip in it. It looks real crazy, doesn't it? But when it's on my body, for some reason it's going to look good. I don't know. I don't know. It's just the way it is. Now this other one, I just sew a 5/8 inch seam into the shoulder. So that's super easy. Line up your notches. And I'm going to sew a 5/8 inch seam into this one, because I don't need to worry about it being the low shoulder. It's the high shoulder, but that's okay because I lowered the other one. Take out your pins. I have no idea what needle I have in here, but it seems to be sewing all right. I moved this machine from Edmond, you know. It was my sewing machine up there, one of them. And I had 3 up there. I had this one and this one, and my 1130, which is on that other table in the other room. Okay, so there's that one. So now, if my serger was here, which it isn't, I could move one out here, but I haven't yet. I could just serge those 2 seams off right now. But I won't. I'm going to go ahead. So now we've got the shoulders together, right? How easy is that? How easy is that? You have sewn together the 2 bust darts and the shoulders. That's it. 2 bust darts and the shoulders. So now we're just going to sew the 2 side seams. Good heavens. And then it's done, except for finishing that raw edges. This is so easy. I could have cut out 3 of these. You can sew 3 practically as fast as you can sew 1 until you get to the hems and the neckline finishes. Okay? So, now I don't have any differences on my sides. I do have 1 high hip, 1 low hip, but because I took it up at the shoulder, it's going to be perfect at my hip level, at my waist level, because I have sucked it up a 1/2 inch, and that's how far I'm off at the hip. So, since this doesn't have a waistline in it, I don't have to worry about that difference in my body. If I was making pants, oh yeah. See, we're going to match it up here at the bottom. I match it up at the top, I match it up at the bottom, and then I make it fit in between, because fabric moves. There's my 2 notches, and they match up perfect. There's my bust dart, it matches perfect. Very nice. Very nice. This is cute material, isn't it? I got this from Missouri Star Quilt Company, I'm pretty sure. To make blouses, not quilts. Alright. Now we're going to have to be careful sewing around this curve here in this sleeve, because it's a pretty tight curve. So I'm putting extra pins there. Because you got to sew 5/8 inch. It's hard to see 5/8 inch on a tight curve. Alright, I'm not looking where the needle's going up and down. I'm looking out here at the 5/8 inch line. And I'm making sure my material touches. Then I'm taking out the pins, that 5/8 inch line as I go around. The needle's going to go up and down forever. You don't watch the needle when you sew. You watch where you're driving your little car. And you drive your car right down that 5/8 inch line. Use your fingers. Your fingers are your best tool. Your fingers are your best tool. This has a thread cutter, yours might not. If yours doesn't have a thread cutter, just cut your threads. Okay. So that's one side seam right there. And before I serge it, I'm going to clip this tight curve here under the arm. See there? That way you'll be able to move your arm better. It'll all be serged off in a minute anyway. Alright, now we've got the other side seam. Hello. 2 shoulders, 2 side seams, 2 bust darts if you need a FBA. You know what? You might not need a FBA. You might not need one. This has 4 inches of ease in it. The company that made the pattern, New Look, put 4 inches of ease in it. And that may be all you need. You know? If your bust isn't very different, your above bust and your below bust, if it isn't very different, and you try this on the Palmer Pletsch way, you pin the 2 paper patterns together and you try it on and it matches your center front, hey, jump right to cutting out and sewing. Jump right to it. Just remember that the waist and the hip have to meet your center too. And of course, there should be 2 inches left over on each side with 4 inches of ease. So, that is the deal. Alright, here we go again, starting at the arm, the sleeve. It's hard to go around a tight curve. You know, it might even help to clip that before you sew it together. That wouldn't hurt. It's what you do when you do a princess seam. You clip one of them or they won't go together. I'm going to have a new blouse to wear. Could you change the style of this? Oh, goodness, yes. You could change the neckline to a V, to a U. You could make the sleeves longer. You could make the whole garment shorter or longer. Alright, there we are. I clipped it again so it will relax when I try it on. So now, we're at try-on time. You want me to try it on? Of course you do. Let me move my chair, which is hard to move on this carpet. Alright, here it is. I don't know if you can see it very good. I can't see it very good. But hopefully you can. Let me look in the mirror for a second. Oh yeah. Look how the neck lays against me. No gaping. No gaping at all. No gaping in the back. No center back seam. No keyhole opening. Plenty of room in the waist. There's probably still 4 inches of ease in the waist. And still 4 inches of ease in the hip. And the top fits me just perfect. I got it right again. Yay! Yay, yay, yay! Aren't we excited? Alright. So next I'm going to serge the shoulder seams. I'm going to serge the side seams. Then I'm going to put the neck facing in. Alright? So after I get the serging done and I come back, I will show you how I sew the facing in. There's shoulder seam serged. Here's the other shoulder seam serged. If you don't have a serger, you can zigzag it. Zigzag it. Zigzag it close and then cut off the extra. There you go. Serged. Side seams are serged. Now here is where the curve was, and I clipped under the arm, and when I serged it, I pulled it straight and serged it straight. So it's not all curved in where it's going to, you know, feel bad underneath my arm. So now we're going to put the facings in. Alright, so we know we've got shoulder seams. So, when you sew the facings together, it's easy to get them screwed up. So lay them down so they're in a circle. You don't want to sew them together like this. And you can sew them together screwy. So make sure they're round like that, and then put them together. Put them together. This is the shoulder seams, and this is the shoulder seams. Now I know you're thinking, I know what you're thinking, is are you going to lower the right shoulder a ½ inch? No, I'm not. For some reason, the facing, because it's not as long, don't put pins in your mouth, ever. The facings, because they're not as long, don't seem to care that I took in that ½ inch in the shoulder seam. I don't know why, and I'm going to use 2½ on this one. I'm not going to make it 3. Yes, I always back tack. Flip it around and do the other one. And then we will have a big circle that looks like the neckline. It will look exactly like the neckline because that's what we drew. That's what we traced. There we go. 5/8 inch. But the seam line we're going to take in the neckline going around, the seam line we're going to take going around is how much? It was different, remember? 5/8 inch everywhere, but the neckline is 3/8 inch. That's right. So I'm going to go and I'm going to serge off these 2 seams that I just took in this. Cut off your hanging down threads. Cut them off right away, then you won't have to do it later when you're wearing your blouse at the office and somebody comes up and says, "You have strings hanging down from your armpit." Yeah. I'm going to go serge this real fast. I have a circle now. Now I should have pressed these. I haven't pressed the shoulder seams yet either, so I'm just going to play like they're pressed because I don't want to go back in that hot room. This is different than what you're going to hear from other teachers. I learned this from Linda Lee, I think. I always press my shoulder seams forward. Forward in the garment. Shoulder seams in the garment forward, because when you press them backwards, it leaves a hump there. And you can see that hump. If you press it forward, the hump shows from the back. And so if people get around and stare at the back of your shoulders, then they can watch the hump back there. But we don't want them to watch the hump from the front. So I'm going to pin these shoulder seams, since I haven't pressed them yet, forward toward the bust dart. You can always tell the front because the bust dart's there. Alright, I looked up and my screen was completely black. Battery died again. The batteries don't last very long when you're doing hours. So, I was showing you the facing. I was telling you, I'm not sure where it cut off, but I was telling you that I always press the shoulder seam in the garment to the front. Always. I always press the shoulder seam in the facing to the back. Alright? I'm going to mark center front of each of these facings because I ironed them and I can't see center front anymore. So I'm going to mark center front. I'm not sure which is the back and which is the front, but I'll know if I put it on wrong. Alright, so where's the front? The front has the bust darts. Let's say this biggest piece is the front, because I think it is. And where is the fold? Where's the fold? Right there. Now look what I'm doing. Do y'all see what I'm doing? This is wrong, wrong, wrong. You have to make sure right sides are together. I turned it inside out to show you the serged seams. Ooh, that heat's coming into here now because I keep opening that door. Whew, it's hot. All right. So here I have a center front. Here I have a center back. Now, the longest piece, I think, is the front. The shortest piece is the back. That works. You know it's got to match. You drew it from the exact pattern piece, so it has to match. Alright, so I'm just pinning it at the shoulders because I want to make sure these seams go the way I want them to go. So I'm pinning them that way. And that way they won't be able to move when I've got it under the presser foot and I'm sewing it. Very good. Very good. And now you can see the reason you interface is it stabilizes the bias parts of the garment. The more bias an edge is, the more stretch it has in it. So when you put the interfacing on, the facing, when you interface the facing, it stabilizes the facing. Then when you put the facing on the garment, it stabilizes the garment. I have right sides together. I've pinned it so the seams go the way I want them to go. I have quite a few pins in it, and I'm going to sew it at 3/8 inch. 3/8 inch. So you have to figure out on your own sewing machine where the 3/8 inch line actually is. Alrighty. Oh, I'll be so glad when I get my wood floors up here. So glad. Now you have to have a free arm for this part. And most sewing machines have them. Do I really need it? Yes, because I want to wrap that around. So I'm going to take this little hoosie out. And I'm going to put it down here next to this chair. And I'm going to move these Kleenex out of the way. And now my machine has a lifter-upper feature. Yes. I had to turn it off at the other house because Pumpkin Pants thought that was the greatest thing since sliced bread. What did I just hit? Hello. Are we safe, sound, and secure? Yeah. We didn't want Pumpkin Pants playing with the elevator. That was not good. See, so now you can wrap around that open arm. It makes it so much easier when you're doing circles. When you're doing circles. So I know 3/8 inch is right at the edge of this foot. So I'm lining up the edge of the foot, even with the edge of the fabric. I'm going to take a ruler, and I'm going to put it next to the needle and out here to the edge and make sure it's 3/8 inch, and it is. And now I'm going to sew, and I'm going to leave it at 2.5 because I want it to be tight. So make sure you're sewing it all right sides together. You don't want to rip this out. You know what I would do if I had to rip it out? I would probably just cut it on the seam line. Lift this up, make sure your seams go in the right way, the whole direction, not just part of the way. Pull out the pins. Pull out the pins. I didn't pull out that pin because I didn't see it in time. If you don't have a nice sewing machine, you know you can buy one on eBay. I got this one on eBay for less than half what I paid for my first one. And they still sell this model brand new for like $4,600. They still sell it. This is a 740. I don't know why they still sell it. They've got a lot of newer models since this one. I know my friend Philly just bought one. I think hers is like a 770 maybe. I know it's a bigger 700 number than mine is. And she really likes it. I told her, sew on a Bernina, embroider on a baby lock. She agrees with me now. Because she wanted, I almost didn't buy that Solaris. Because I said, oh my gosh, it doesn't have that even feed foot. And the girl selling it said, oh yes it does. It has one. Well, what she meant was it had a walking foot. It does not have the even feed foot. Alright, so I have sewn this all around at 3/8 inch. See that? So now what am I going to do? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip it. I'm going to clip it because it's a circle. When you have a circle, you have to do clipping duty. But I'm not going to clip it a whole bunch. And Louise Cutting says clip at an angle on one layer and then clip at the opposite angle on the other layer. I've learned stuff from so many different teachers. My goodness, you want to sew a beautiful garment? Buy one of Louise Cutting's patterns. Not for the pattern, but for the directions. She is amazing. She is amazing. But her patterns they're just so huge on me. I just really have problems with the fullness in her patterns. And she's like, well, just take it out. Make a smaller size. In her patterns, I can make an extra small. That's how much ease they have in them. I'm not no extra small, people. All right, you want to be able to pull that perfectly straight. So I have clipped one edge of it. Now I'm going to turn it and I'm going to clip the inside edge the opposite way. I'll come over and show you close in a minute. So I clipped that way. That means I've got to clip this way. This way. And clip in a different place. Don't clip in the same place. And what this does is it keeps your clips from showing from the front. Number one, they're on the bias. Number two, you cut each layer separate. So when the front is pressed, it won't show all of these little humps from where you trimmed this. It's really a cool way. We learned this, Billy and I learned it from Louise Cutting. So that's one side. I've got to do the other side. Oh, I hope my battery doesn't go dead again. I may have to come back tomorrow. Alright, so I'm going to cut in here now. Yep. Because when you pull on this, putting it off and on, you don't want it to tear. So because we're putting this extra ease in it, clipping the curve, we're making it so when it gets pulled on, it's straight. See? That's the deal. So let me show you up close if I can. This is the side with the interfacing. And you can see I have clipped it at an angle going in that direction. I've clipped it at an angle. On the other side, I've clipped it at the opposite angle. Can you tell? I've clipped the other side at the opposite angle, and I've clipped it in a different place than I clipped the first side. So I hope that makes sense. That really, really makes it look nice from the front. That's a little Louise Cutting tip. Next step is I am going to press this up into the facing. All of this seam is going to go up into the facing, and then I am going to do what's called understitching, where I am going to sew. I'm sewing on the facing. On the facing. I'm sewing on the facing. I have the seam on the back pulled up to the facing. I'm going to press it all up to the facing, and then I'm going to sew here. I'm going to sew right here, real close, right here. Sew, 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 all the way around, and then that will attach these seam allowances. These seam allowances will then be sewn down. They'll be sewn along here, and they'll be sewn down to this facing. So it will, all three layers will be held together, and then when you fold it to the inside, it will keep it inside and keep it from coming forward where you don't want it to show. Alright, here's my facing. My facing is pressed to the inside. I press the seams up into the facing. As you can see, they're pressed up into the facing. I'm changing my foot to one that can get closer to the edge because I want it really close to the edge. Your facing's going to be opened out. You're opened out, see? Here's your facing opened out, and we're going to sew the facing to that seam allowance. The seam allowance of the facing sewn to the top. All right. Set it up so you can get pretty close. Everybody's machine is different. Move your needle where you need to move your needle. I like to use a little zigzag, actually. I don't know why, but I do. A little one, because a zigzag will stretch. Not that we're going to need it to stretch, but we built that ease into it with those clips. So we're going to put some ease in by zigzagging. Make sure, push with your fingers, use your fingers. Push that inside seam allowance up toward the facing. You got hands, check it, pull it up there. Don't open it up in a minute and find out you missed half of it. That's a major hassle. Oh, it's hot in that room. And it's getting hot in here. Whew. I have the door shut. They're not coming to fix it until 7 o'clock tomorrow night. I'm sure they're having air conditioner issues all over the place. At these kind of temperatures, it always happens. We pay for more Frixion every year. At least there seems to be a lot of heat and air people still around. And we have a guy that we really like. He used to work for another company, and the other company had a really creepy boss. I won't go into that story since this is a solo. Okay, now I'm going to put it back on straight stitch, and I'm going to go forward a bit and backward a bit, and I'm going to cut it. And I'm going to come show it to you. There we are. See that zigzag? See how it sews on the facing. It's sewn on the facing, and it's sewing that seam allowance to itself. That is called understitching. That's just some extra thread there. Don't pay any attention to that. It's because I didn't serge that edge, and I didn't serge that edge because I knew I was sewing it down, so it doesn't really need it. All right? So that's what you do. And I'm going to serge this edge, but I still haven't serged it because I haven't figured out how long I want it to be yet. A finished neckline. How nice is that? All right? So now we're going to do the sleeves. There's nothing to show you on the sleeves. I am going to serve. First, I'm going to press it up. I don't know if it's 5/8 inch or 3/8 inch or what, but the pattern will say how much. I'm going to press it up however much first. Then I'm going to serge all the way around both sleeves. I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom, and this time I'm going to take a wider hem because on my other blouse I showed you how it kind of curls up a little bit. It looks super nice, but when I'm wearing it, it kind of curls up. I don't know why. So I'm going to take a little bit deeper hem, I think probably 5/8 inch down here at the bottom. I'll press it up 5/8 inch, then I'll serge it, and then I'll sew it down. So I'll come back and show you it when it's all done, and maybe I'll be wearing it. Huh? I popped back in to show you how I'm sewing the hem in. First thing I did was go to my ironing board, and I folded up the edge all the way around 5/8 inch. I took a seam gauge, one of these, and I put it on 5/8, and I'd fold it up and put a pin, fold it up and put a pin, fold it up and put a pin, and I'd do about 5-6 inches at a time. Then I would press it with the steam iron really, really good to make a crease. I wanted that crease in there. So when I got all the way around with my 5/8 inch crease, I went over to my serger and I serged the edge of it. Fold the hem up first. Do not serge it first because you may serge off a different amount in different places, and then your hem won't be straight. Okay, so I'm just going to show you now. I'm on the inside of the garment. I still have my open arm here, and I'm sewing around the serged edge. I have my what do you call these things? My presser foot. I'm guiding my presser foot. You want me to put it up super close so you can see? I don't like to do that because my hands look so awful. But I'll put it up super close just for you. You see my crease? See my crease? See how I serge the edge of it with my wonderful Baby Lock Enlightened serger. Never misses a stitch. Now I have my foot lined up right here. I have one toe on the left of this area, and I'm lining it up, and I'm driving the inside of this toe right down this edge here. I have my needle moved over 1 or 2 places so it's sewing right on the edge of this serged area. Now, did I use steam-a-seam in this? No. Who knows why I didn't use steam-a-seam? Anybody left in the room that didn't already go home from hunger and heat? The reason I didn't use steam-a-seam in this is cotton. This is not knit. I use steam-a-seam in knits because knit hems stretch all over the place when you sew on them. So you want them glued down. But this is cotton, and you can see, you just pull it a little bit. Now I've got my hand in the back, but I'm just guiding it. I'm not pulling it. I'm just very gently holding it taut. What I'm doing is I'm holding it taut from here. My hand in the back is holding this part, and my front's holding this part, see, and then that holds that taut. So that's what that's about, because you get into some pretty big curves on this hem. And the pattern, by the way, says put narrow hem in the bottom. That's all it tells you. So I decided, now when I get to the side seams, I do a back stitch or 2. I figure if this is going to rip out, at least it'll stop ripping out when it gets there. And that right there looks like it's a little bit fatter than 5/8 inch to me. I saw that on the ironing board, and it is. So I'm going to move it down a hair. Just a hair. Just because. And sometimes when you go from the seam area there to the flat part, it doesn't want to behave real good. So do the best you can. The narrower the hem on the curve, the better. Now see, on the yellow blouse, what I did, I also did 5/8 inch on the yellow blouse, but I did not serge the edge. I just folded the edge in like this, and then folded it like that, and then I sewed that real skinny hem in it. But, like I said, it keeps rolling up, so we'll see if this way does any better. Cut. All right, there's my hem. There it is. Sewn in close to this edge. This edge is serged, it will not ravel. And here it is on the other side. So this blouse is completely done except for the sleeve. And both sleeves I'm going to do the exact same way. Okay. You can't imagine what I'm standing in to do this for you guys. I've got tape stuck on my shoe. There's cords all over the floor. I'm dripping with sweat. It's 75 in here. We've got 2 air conditioners out. It's 84 in the other room. So I don't know what's going on, but whew, I'm going downstairs where the air conditioners work. But this is it. New look 6217. So here it is, front, back, bust dart, FBA, added the width, added the length. Notice the front and the back should be the same, even though I added all of that extra length to the front. Huh? And I shortened the back with the sway back, lengthened the front with the FBA. Sorry about the lights. This room is, half of it's dark because of the movie part, and the other half is really bright because of the sewing part. Okay? All done? Sew along over. Tell me what you think. Did I leave anything out? If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. And I will put the name of the pattern in the description box below. And anything else I can think of that maybe I need to tell you down there, okay? All right. This is the end of this sew along for the boat neck dolman pullover top, because I did not make it with the opening in the back, and you see I got it on very easily. So let me know what you want to know next. I'll be back soon.